How leaders plan is always an interesting question, but what do they plan for? A look into the future with a promise to live prepared for it. That gives us our next guest speaker, Ike Nwankwo. Please welcome on stage.
Durbaden. Thank you. The real difficulty about coming on after we've had so many great speakers is that they've taken all your points. So what I'm going to try to do today is try and put it in a different angle. So that I probably might be saying the same things, but I will say it with a different tune. I will say it with a bit more passion and emotion. And I put some dramatics in it so that you remember it. Because there's nothing more important than saying, I remember that guy that was dancing on the stage that said X, Y, or Z. The other thing I'd like to promise you is that by the end of my session today, that you will all go away, hopefully, making a pledge to yourselves. Because we're talking today about anti-fragility, empowering it, through the project economy, which I'll be talking about. And I want you to take something away from that so that you repeat those messages. That way you become better. So, first of all, before I actually start on my presentation, permit me, please, to talk about PMI. So, am I permitted to talk about PMI, please? Yeah. Okay, good. No no's. So, PMI, I'm one of 12 global, I'm one of 12 directors, which we are global directors. And I use the word global because, yes, in the past, there has been this perception that PMI is that American company. That American company that says it's global, but does not listen to local chapters, does not listen to what's happening regionally. That has changed. Well, I'm one of 12. As you can see from the diagram on the slide, we're spread across. PMI represents the world. It is global, and we have global representation across the world, and the map shows that. This is purely from the board of directors' perspective. We also have regional staff that cover the globe. So if you ever go away, or if anybody else ever tells you, PMI, that US organization, yes, we are registered in the US. There's nothing, we can't go away from that. But we are truly a global organization. Every member of the board of directors is a volunteer. Very important to note. Every member of the board of directors is passionate about the project management profession. Is passionate about making sure that the future direction of project management and our profession and its awareness is in the right direction. We are at events there for you to tell us. We have to sense. We want to get information from yourselves because we're there to serve the PM community. To serve the PM community, we need to get information from yourselves so that we can see what is happening, so that we can direct the organization in the right way in order to satisfy yourselves as members of the PMI community. How big are we? 1.5 million varied certifications. Over 670,000 members, and you can all read the slide, so if I'm reading it, please tell me to stop. Again, if I start talking too fast, just tell me to slow down. I get passionate when I'm talking about project management and PMI, so if I'm going too fast, I'll be looking out. If you do your hands like this, I'll try and start talking slowly so that you understand me, and I'm not putting out too much information. So the key thing is that here, 750 staff, 10,000 plus volunteers. In fact, that number is 12,000, the last I knew. Totally volunteer-driven. Every single volunteer with the same level of passion, dedication for the profession in order to move the profession forward. What else do we do at PMI? Research. Critical to what we do. And there's so much publications out there. In fact, the bulk of what I'll be talking about today is based on research and information that exists today throughout PMI. PMI.org, do a search, you find tons of information. We've got so many publications, and those are just a few. I'm particularly fond of Pulse of the Profession. Why? Because the name says it all. It is telling us what is happening with our profession, and therefore we get better at it. So please, if you have any time, look for these articles, look for those publications. The link is there. Please go there, read it. And as I said, I'll be pulling information from that as I talk today. The other thing that PMI has done only recently, and it's good to hear it from others when they talk about culture, and earlier said they said culture eats strategy and stuff, and things around that, is that we've also, as an organization, looked at our culture. Because if we're going to move forward, PMI was 50 in 2019. If we're going to look forward to the next 50 years, some of the things we must do, knowing what has happened, demographic change, shifts, population differences, new theories coming out, D&I, ESG, so many different things coming out. AI, and we've all talked about ChatGPT and things like that. AI, how do we prepare ourselves today for the future? How do we do that? The first thing, and it's good to hear other people talking about people, human side of it. Most important today to prepare for tomorrow. So that human part is all about getting the culture right. So PMI has undergone a culture change. And our new culture values, as displayed there, are straightforward, simple. We will look to make it easy in everything we do. We will aim higher in everything we do. We will be welcoming, irrespective of anything. We'll always be welcoming. And at events like this, we have been welcoming. We'll embrace curiosity, always looking at what can we do, what should be different. How can we take it forward? Are there any innovative angles we can use in order to drive that forward? And finally, Lee has said it at the beginning about collaboration. A lot of people saying about collaboration. We will do it together. So together we can. Together. It is all of us here today that will make that change, that will drive the project management profession and ourselves forward. So before I actually go into my presentation, I want to say, wow. I'm standing in front here, 850 people here today. It didn't just happen. I would like to thank the chapter of Bulgaria for the efforts to put this event together. I would like to thank the events team for putting all this together. I'd like to thank the sponsors for being here today and something like that. And I'd like to thank, more importantly, everybody that decided to pay and come to this event. Because it's a collaboration. The chapter could do everything it did, and we have no attendees here. It doesn't work. It's together we can. So if I can ask, before I forget, there's one other thing they did today that some of you haven't noticed. They talked to the weather, and they told the weather, do not rain today. Let the sun shine. Let there be light. And wow, what kind of planet is that? That's fantastic. So if I can ask everybody to stand up and just give ourselves a round of applause. PMI has what we call a winning aspiration, which is we're here, and one of our aspirations is to empower people to make ideas a reality. It's a fundamental thing of what is driving PMI going forward. Today, I'm here to talk about powering an anti-fragile project economy. Now, to be frank, when I was first asked to do this, I was like, anti-fragile? Man, it's confusing me. Then I asked within PMI, how do I go about talking to an audience now of 850 and tell them what anti-fragility is what I like, anti-fragility meant? Because I don't know. I understand it. I looked at the words. It made sense to me. But what does it mean generally? So what they said is fragile. I said, yeah, that makes sense. Anti-fragile, that makes sense. Resilient. Okay, so fragile is damaged by disorder. Okay, makes sense. Resilient is unaffected by disorder. Okay, now I'm a bit confused. Then antifragile is benefiting from disorder. Okay, maybe that makes sense. So that's the definition, and the person attributed to the statement, Nassan Taleb, describes it like this. But what I like to tend to do with definitions is dumb it down. Dumb it down to the basic level so that I understand it, and therefore I can talk better about it. And it's simply in the words. Anti means I'm against. Okay? So I'm against being fragile. And by being against being fragile, I want to ensure that if anything happens in terms of disorder, disruption, that I'm resilient against it. I strive to be better as part of it. So my simple definition is that I am against being fragile, and I will strive. And when I use the word I, that is referring to me or you, but I can change it to we, which is us, your organization, the place where you work, your team, will be resilient against being fragile. And in simple terms, I don't want to be broken. For me not to be broken, I'm going to work hard to make sure I'm not broken. And in fact, I'm going to work so hard that I'm going to be better from that anti-fragility. So in simple terms, that works for me. Okay? So I don't want to be broken. I don't think anybody here wants to be broken. Does anybody want to be broken, just in case I'm assuming? Oh, there's one person that wants to be broken. Let's talk later so that I can fix you back together so that you can strive and become even better. So that's a simple definition to me of being anti-fragile. But then we talk about the project economy. So what does the project economy mean? And we're hearing about project management. We've heard about different economies, gig economy, and things like that. What is the project economy? Anybody? Any guesses from anybody? Okay. I look at it in three ways, and so does PMI, obviously. Way one. You can read the definition. But the key words here are right skills and mindset. I heard mindset from the other speakers so many times. I was like, how am I going to change my presentation and not talk about mindset? You physically cannot talk about anything to do with project management in the future without talking about mindset. Even if you're, everybody get that? Yep. Mindset. So two words there when you're thinking about the project economy is about, on the individual side, is making sure individuals have the right mindset and skills to do the work they need to do. Point one. The second stage of it is because I only talked about individuals. Now, that doesn't do anything. The fact that I have the right mindset and right the skills, is that going to change my organization? Potentially not. So what is the next level of the project economy? It's where the organization itself understands that it has individuals and people with the right mindset and skills, and then utilizes that in the correct way to deliver the objectives. If you do that in a combination, you're beginning to form what we call the project economy. That combination of skill, mindset, and utilization by the organization for one particular reason, to get work done. There's a third aspect to it, and I'll talk about it later as I go through the slides. But the whole principle around the project economy is you need to strengthen society, and society could be your team, your organization. To do that, you have to do a number of things, as it states. This organization itself needs to be an enabling organization. And I'll talk a bit more about what we mean by enabling. It needs to empower people. Again, people is there, but empowering them. And I give you, as we go through the presentation, I'll talk more about empowering people. But with an objective, and from a PMI perspective, is to make ideas a reality. So, we understand what anti-fragile means. We understand what power economy means. So what? Always a good question. So what? What am I going to do with all this information? How am I going to take this information and make myself better? or make my organization better. What does it actually mean? Why should I even bother about powering the project economy or powering an anti-fragile project economy? Let me show you a quote. And I'm going to read it. You're going along, life is good, and then wham. Yep. Something happens. You say, I have to do something in order to move on. Now, this quote says, that's the decision that you are going to make, and that, to me, is where resilience lies. So the key thing is that the first point is that you have to tell yourself, this is where the mindset comes in, that I have to make a decision at that point. 1, resilience. Then I have to move on. 2, be better. Remember those 2 things. I have to make that decision, individual, and then I have to agree to move on. Famous quote. It is specifically important when it comes to anti-fragility, as I prefer to call it. What are examples of this happening? And I said PMI does a lot of research around different examples, different organizations that do it. And one has been picked out. Lighthouse Labs in the UK. We all know that there have been major disruptions and disorder, especially around COVID. On day 1, when he had the opportunity to make COVID tests, sampling, on day 1, it could only make 41 for the day. 41. With his existing procedures, existing people, existing lab equipment, only 41. But they took on the challenge. And within 3 months, they could make, who can guess, in a day? Right, there's 5,000 here. Any more takers? 10,000. Any more takers? 1 million. Ooh, any more takers? I give you that. 85,000. From 41 in the same capacity with the same people. So not only did they say, we are going to strive in this environment and be resilient, we're going to be better. And they set that self as a target. Now, you'll ask, how did they do it? And this is where I like going back sometimes to anti-fragile. Because half of the solution is actually in the name. Agile. Okay? The other half is not in the name because it was empowering. They changed the systems. They put decision-making down to the people actually doing the work. We didn't stay up in C-suite or something like that. The C-suite empowered the organization to make decisions, put improvements in place so that they could come out of that resilient mode and then move into the next level, which is, benefiting from that disorder. So it can be done if you put your mind to it. Now, as I said, PMI does a lot of research. And I did mention that there's a third aspect to the project economy that I like talking about as well, that we can put everything together. This is around data that has been put together through our research that actually talks about what the project economy is and the future of the project economy going forward. 1, 79% of executives agree, and I'm going to paraphrase this, that the best way to get things done is via what? Projects. That third point I was talking about, the project economy, is a one word, projectization. Projectization says that if you really need to get work done properly, make it a project. When you make it a project, it gives you that focus. If you have that focus, then you can be resilient. If you continue to maintain that focus, then you'll be better after being resilient. Executives are saying, and 79% of executives say that. The second thing in the blue there says around industries enjoying human capabilities. We've all talked about people. How many people here work on projects? Okay, good. How many people have been allowed to, how many people believe that projects manage themselves and get delivered? Why are we laughing? We all talk about projects. The project just get up and say, yeah, I've delivered myself. Yay! It doesn't happen like that. The only way projects get delivered is via people. Okay? The more organizations begin to understand is that no matter what you do or what you put around or what words you use, it is about people. You need to understand that it is people that deliver projects. The moment you begin to understand, you start working more about skills around people. Empathy. And I'll talk more about the different skills and different ways to do it. But the key principle is that people deliver projects. Projects do not deliver themselves. A Microsoft project plan does not deliver your project. No matter what some executive says, I want to see your plan, it is not delivering your project. And I see some people like, yeah, I know about that. But it's true, it does not. And once you get into the mindset and understand that, you become more anti-fragile. Let's put it that way. So what does PMI research and data talk about the project profession and project professionals? They've done a recent study around the number of project-orientated roles that are required by 2030. Okay? That is people that are involved in project-related roles, which would involve project professionals, project managers, business analysts, product managers, the whole range of it. By 2030, we need 25 million project-oriented roles. 25 million by 2030. Now I can start doing some calculations, work it out, and do something like that, but I know the figure. That's 2.3 million per year. We need 2.3 million project-oriented individuals in order to be prepared, be resilient, plan for the future by 2030. Now I'm putting some of this information, and I go quickly through some other pieces of information, so that when I go into what I talked about, we will pledge towards the end, and I talked about the fact that I want you all to take something away. It's good to understand the basis and the background behind some of the information that's provided. So think about it, 2.3 million per year. Ask yourself, what are you doing about it? Ask yourself, are you ready for it? Ask yourself, if you know that ChatGPT is coming and people are talking it's going to take away our roles, but you also know that people are important, that projects don't deliver themselves, what are you doing? Okay? Earlier speaker says resilience is not waiting for it to happen. It's planning for it. And then what do we do best as project professionals? We plan. So don't wait. Let's plan. So we're not thinking about being resilient because we're already resilient, and we're talking about how we're going to do better. And hopefully, we get there. So what other statistics exist that's causing this disruption or unexpected changes, which is what anti-fragility is about? One, there's a lot of catalysts for change. We all know that. And this is statistics already provided and is in the, I think, pulse of the profession. People are calling, and the first one just says, shortage of labor, more or less. The correct people with the correct skills to do the right things to allow organizations to deliver on their objectives. We don't have enough. And there's much more. Again, I'll repeat, I encourage everybody to go to PMI.org and look at the research papers. There's full information around it. All I've done is extracted some information here to justify the points I'll talk about as we go forward. The next thing is, how do we empower project professionals? I asked her, so what? You've got all different information, so what? How do we take it forward? What would you take away from here today that says, oh yeah, now I know how to empower myself. Now I know how to be ready for anti-fragility. What's that? And there's information there in the slide as it explains. The next key thing is data. Data-driven insights. It's important. Be aware of it because we have history. We talk about feedback after something, lessons learned, and things like that. There's data that is important in today's environment that we need to understand in order to be able to move forward. Critical information. So, I'll ask myself the question again, and so what? What am I going to take away from all this information that you've heard today? How are we going to move forward with this? I have 3 points. Some of them have been mentioned before. There are other points. But what are the critical takeaways from today? 1, embrace power skills. Lee Lambert said earlier, if you're not able to communicate, really, you can't be a good project manager. You'll be asking me now, what are power skills? Okay? It's PMI's terminology of what you may call soft skills, but takes it to a different level. And then let me go for it, because it's tied into something else. We've talked about triangles before. PMI has the talent triangle. Be aware, there are tons of triangles. And there's actually a formula for the number of triangles that fit in a triangle, that fit in another triangle that continue. So for every triangle, there's a triangle. So don't assume that one triangle takes over another triangle. But this specific triangle is looking at what we call the talent triangle. 3 key areas. One of the areas in orange there talks about power skills. But in blue, it talks about ways of working. So every time I hear somebody says, oh, it's agile, I have to do agile, hybrid, it's a way of working. And this talent triangle says, look, as a project professional, you have to have business acumen, not just common sense. And Lee Lambert said it. Some of these things are common sense. But ways of working. Within that, you have tools. It's just ways of working. You decide. Remember, projects don't deliver themselves. You do. So you have to decide the correct ways of working. And then you have to have power skills. And I can see some people still waiting. What is power skills? The breakdown of all 3 areas, and specifically around power skills. When we're talking about anti-fragility, and I prefer to use that word, I've said it several times, the key power skills to look at is, 1, problem solving, decision making. Okay? And I know on the slide it says problem solving, but it's tied into decision making. You have to be able to make that decision, but you need the right mindset to be able to make that decision so you can move forward. And then when you've made the decision, you have to be able to communicate it. So if there's any power skill that you want to start today to take away and say, I need to get better at, choose those 2 first. Today is about anti-fragile, anti-fragility, anti-fragile. Take those 2 skills. But if I was you all want to aim high, don't you? Look at all. Because when you start building on these power skills individually, you're preparing yourself for the future. You're making yourself more resilient and even better. Critical. There's more data around the different skills required across the world in nations based on the survey, and that survey is available again, Pulse of the Proficient, and it ties it down to specific skills, communication being one of them, and problem solving, and per area. So PMI has done some good research on that, down to area, so that if you're in one of those areas, you know what this researcher said are the key skills required in that particular area, so you can focus on those particular skills. 2, I'm giving you 3 points as lessons, actionable lessons. 2, make agility a priority. Notice I didn't say be agile. Or I didn't even say make agile a priority. Why? Because agile has a perception behind it. The minute you start hearing agile, people start thinking about, oh yeah, Scrum, this, no. We're talking about agility. What does agility mean? The ability to change, to pivot, to transform, to adapt. I don't care if you're using Scrum, whatever methodology. It's just that concept that you make the ability to change and transform and to pivot a priority. Because it's only if it's a priority that you're able to move forward. Forget terminology. Just be able to pivot. If you're going this way, I know the number of times people have worked on projects, they know it's going wrong. And some of you have worked on projects, you know it's going wrong. But there's something that tells you just continue. If you get the right mindset, it will start changing, and you have the right empowerment, and you say, I know this is not really going right. Let me pivot and change. Let me course correct. Let me be brave enough, because I have the right mindset, to talk to my executives, if need be, to tell them, I think this is going wrong. I'm the PM, and I think we should course correct, because this is what I'm seeing, and these are the reasons behind it. Don't be afraid. That is the mindset that's been said throughout here that we need to develop for the future. Okay. Those are the skills we need to make sure, when we talk about power skills, that exist. And again, there's data there that shows that once you start making agility a key focus, you're likely to improve by 30%. They've said it, data there. There's 5 to 10x growth, and then a 30% improvement in performance. Then the final point there is embrace continuous learning. Now, Lee's only read one book, well, 2. That's learning, it doesn't matter. Lee's method of learning is interacting with people. My preference for learning, especially with these younger kids that do something, is I do reverse mentoring. It doesn't have to be reading a book. So if there's something I don't know, but I have this spirit of continuous learning, I look for a younger person who's doing things totally different from my time. I don't say, oh, I'm a waterfall guy, all this agile doesn't make sense to me. I'm a waterfall guy, I grew up. But I really understand what this agile thing they're talking about is all about. Yeah? And there's this young guy, he knows it. So I go up to him and say, can you reverse mentor me? And that's where I get information from there. So don't look at continuous learning as, I need a new certification, or I need this, I need to read a book. It's not only that. It is about how you take information, how you learn. Once you're able to learn in different formats and what works for you, you are continuously learning. And will continue to need to continuously learn because things will change as we move forward. Again, there's data there that talks about the importance of skills as we move forward. The importance of these various skills that we need to have as we move forward. So, to conclude, I'm going to pledge. I pledge that I shall not be broken. You know where I'm going here? I shall strive to be resilient. I shall even strive further than resilience to make sure I'm even better. I shall do this by understanding that I have to have the right mindset. I have to have the right skills in order to do it. That I have to encourage my organization to use my right mindset and skills in order to drive the objectives forward. That I will always, and I go back to the points, so you know, I will always, there we go, one more. Embrace power skills, make agility a priority, and continuous learning. I pledge to do all that because I want to prepare myself for the future and against anti-fragility. And on that note, I'd like to conclude by saying, very slowly and carefully, Bois Daria V. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.